Declaration of Rights and Indigenous Peoples were also recognized in Canada, but this kind of dovetailed into that so that this whole process will be part of it. So Canada's development of new rights-based policy by June 2019 is the White Paper 2. There is a 4-month March to June, accelerated by the federal AFN parallel process underway to replace the federal self-government and comprehensive land claim policies with a new rights-based policy of by June 2019. That will be used for a new self-government fiscal policy and the negotiation mandates approved by the federal cabinet for all negotiations involving the federal government calls pre-1975 treaties, Section 35, the Aboriginal Treaty Rights of the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. So, according to an updated federal draft, the federal government intends to replace the existing comprehensive land claims policy and inherent rights policy with a new rights-based policy by June 2019. So, I'll just wind it up there. What we are sensing here is that because of this, we have this lawsuit underway, but it gave us an opportunity to start addressing these shortcomings. Now, the settlement agreement that Roger mentioned in that letter that was prepared by the lawyer, is the settlement agreement, is it in there that is contained? Why? They're not releasing it to everybody, only 3 people can see it. Is it because it contains what the council has to go into in order to accept this as a condition of the settlement agreement? We have to go into self-government. We don't know. So, as a sidelight to this, what we're doing in this lawsuit, we're going to make a recommendation that we should be inviting the people from Ottawa, like the policy analysts, to come to our community, even if it's placed in Lethbridge, and have a presentation by them and give us a true answer, true information, accurate information for our members. If council don't want to do that, if the chief doesn't want to do that, we should be asking for that. Because it's our future, it's our children's future, our grandchildren, the future of our treaty rights. That's why we're very concerned. We're not doing this just to go into a fight with leadership. We're trying to hold them accountable. So I'll give it back to Raj.
So, just combining the whole thing together, you know, it's as you know, Chris, you know, with this information, it's so vital. It's necessary that we, as the people of Gatineau and also people across all regions across Canada, have to understand what the process is what they're doing to us, and at the same time of how we're being railroaded. But the thing is I'd like to introduce Eugene, and in regards to you know, as to what his comments were from yesterday, to add on to what to you know, to today's you know.
Okay. Botanical Magisto. My English name is Eugene Fox. I'm a 4th generation farmer, and my grandfathers were all farmers on both sides. This agreement, to me, right from the beginning, to my understanding, is when they decided to pay us $3,000 distribution payment, and it came to around $11,000 per head count. In there, I started realizing and researching that treaty money belongs to the people. A A treaty was signed and in existence in the 1800s or even prior. However, the blood tribe was invented around 1936 and became an Indian Act band, and they amalgamated all the sovereign bands. Before, there was 22, but down to 14. So case law proves that this money belongs to the people, not chief and council to handle and do their projects, because they are the contractors, and we have lots of proof on that. And we talked about how certain individuals are entitled to $22 million to build a hotel on land that was supposed to be designated for reserve. It is not. It hasn't been converted. So these are the certain things that we're going out and building a $22 million hotel, and we have people starving on the streets. We have problems with opioids. We have elders even standing on the streets starving. There's no homes. And a lot of this money, I got concerned when they said we want to build a $20 million ice rink. We have just a couple teams on the reserve. But no, getting down to the real facts, money is being used in wrong areas. This giving away the treaty invites people like Roy Fox to bring in John Jurius of Indigena. He's a shareholder, both of them. Now, John Jurius is a Texas billionaire who tried to take the northern Utes and Utah as partners, and then they end up in litigation, and there's billions of dollars at the table. Now, all of a sudden, this guy is still in court with the northern Utes, and here we are in leadership invited him here to Canada on our reserve to control most of the reserve. They guaranteed him 490,000 acres to use as his collateral and develop businesses. Who are the shareholders? It doesn't mention any of the members. I have a list here, and it says November 25th draft only, but we're going to put it on the website because there are many facts here, websites that we didn't put out there, they put out there. And you know, this guy's out here, he owns he's a majority shareholder of the hay plant, BTAP, northern part of the reserve on our oil wells or petroleum, you name it. Our wind projects. Indigena owns the reserve. If you want to order paper, printers, or anything, you have to go through Indigena. That's minor. But when you start talking about oil, windmills, farmland, this man is not even a blood tribal member. He's a United States resident. But he came on to First Nations lands without a permit and is controlling everything. Was going to take advantage of us like he did with the Northern Utes. So this will be posted on the website. And you can see the many entities that are involved with land, acres, you name it, it's all here. So I'm not going to carry on with this, I'll post it for you to read and everybody. This is public information. And there's websites you can check out. So this is just a drop in a bucket. If we lose our treaty and it becomes a municipality, how many of these guys are going to be running out here, taking over our land, and we're sitting on 1 acre fence paying taxes and wishing our leadership would have done a better job for us. Right now, leadership isn't, first of all, they're not capable of doing this kind of business because they're not businessmen. They're not farmers, they don't know much about the petroleum industry. The infrastructure to run a little country like the Blood Reserve takes qualified people. We don't have the qualified people in office, but we have qualified people outside the office that can make a big difference to our reserve, but we're limited. So what I'm going to say is our farming is important. He controls all our farmland. We'll never farm. And I mentioned that a lot of our guys on the reserve are running $500,000 tractors with lots of technology, GPSing and everything. We can do this farming through the Kainai Agricultural Group. And I don't think it's very right for everybody to sit back and just let this happen. Our children are going to suffer, the grandkids. Right now the grandparents are suffering. Even when they sit in with their family, they wonder what happened to us. We were the fiercest and most biggest tribe in Canada. We're dwindling down to leadership that's just putting us in a hole. Now, I was told a few years ago, everybody is mad. There's only 1,350 land occupants. The rest are mad. So what does the tribe do? They deduct the land occupants, and they call it non-land occupant fund. Well, they haven't been giving that out. They might have given a small amount out, but in reality, there's 1,350 land occupants and 8 members in the family benefit, even the mother-in-law benefits. So you times that by 8, there's 10,800 people that are happy to get something from the land occupant, which is family. And if the tribe had let us transfer land to these members, we'd all be farming. But as soon as you want to transfer land to a family, it goes into a land dispute. And then the money sits in there. We don't know where that goes to. And there's proof that this money has been taken and displaced. If you look at the consolidated financial statements in the last few years, the accountants say even lands department should be in third-party management. So when are their leaders going to wake up? Right now, you can't just think about yourselves. We have our grandkids, our great-grandkids. What about the future kids of their kids? And they always say, the leaders, when they campaign, since time immemorial, we're going to take care of you like we did before. Once they get in, you can't even reach them on the phone. So the reason why we're in this lawsuit today is because we want to help protect you. We don't just want to say sign for $3,000 and lose your treaties, or get the full $11,000. It's not worth it. But however, you're entitled to that treaty money, and you're entitled to a better explanation without having to lose a treaty, because there's enough here that can turn this around. Thank you.
And one more I'd like to add on. On November the 5th, 2021, I went to my wife and I went to the Lethbridge Registrar office, and we got printouts of the acres claim. And the acres claim is right here. This is public information. And then acres 1 and 2, I do believe, are together now. So there's 680 acres just on 509 and Highway 3. There's a sign that says there, no trespassing but tribe. But at the same time, what we found out within these documentations, again, there was they're all numbered companies. And there's only, and 2 of the lands that they couldn't find nothing on them. And one was I do believe was dated April 12th, 1931, and that was for Manager the Queen in the right of Alberta. So these are numbered companies that within the acres claim, and we're also going to be posting this information out on our website with the acres claim. But the question is this. Just like my wife explains it, shouldn't this land say Blood Tribe ownership on there, if it's Blood Tribe land?
Blood Indian Reserve.
Blood Indian, yeah.
Blood Indian Reserve.
Yeah, Blood Indian Reserve on it, BIR. But at the same time, they're numbered companies, so that means who's ever connected to the numbered companies are share owners of that land. It doesn't belong to the tribe as a whole. So these are the questions that we're asking, and at the same time, we have, also did a little bit of research on it. So maybe I'll just pass it on to you guys when we make a comment on that.
I'll make one comment on that acres claim. There's that land itself. It's they say it's about 680 acres. Mm-hmm. However, that land, the value they paid for it, to me, I spoke to a lot of people in the community, says it wasn't worth that value. And because there's no farmland on it, it's on a hill, the gravel resources are gone, there's no oil and gas there. But they want to build lots of, spend a lot of money on there, basically on that hotel. Now, we've been trying to find out who the real shareholders and all that, and it's true, the blood tribe should be the shareholder, and members, anything on the blood tribe should be us too, included as members, shareholders. We're not. And Chris did a little research, and I'll leave it up to you to take that over.
Yeah, so, the original trust agreement, Acres Trust, and agreement and settlement agreement stipulates that the land we purchased has to be converted to an Indian reserve as part of the Blood Indian Reserve. All it is, it's replacing land we lost, which was the Fort Hookup area. And so the money and the treaty land entitlement process, we get the monies. That's why this treaty land entitlement settlements are different from, let's say, like the cows and plows and mismanagement of assets. This is a land, we get enough resources that we have to buy land and convert it to an Indian reserve. The biggest challenge for these conversions is the negotiations with, in this case, would be with the county, with the municipality of the county, with the province, and even the feds for tax losses. So the acres have to pay up front probably 20 years, as some other First Nations across Canada in their TLE settlements have had to do. But this is over 20 years ago when that land was made. When it was during my tenure as chief that the settlement was made. And it's still not an Indian reserve. They purchased it, about 10 years ago, 8 years ago?
That's 6
years. And it hasn't been converted. So I think they're putting the cart before the horse by going ahead and trying to build a casino there and a hotel. I've asked them, what is the plan? What is the business plan? Does it make sense? Because in my tenure, we looked at a casino. It didn't make sense. It wasn't going to make us any money because even though we were relying on our brothers across the line, the Blackfeet tribe, that they would come up and stay at our hotel and go into our casino. But today they have their own. So this is a very poor investment. And today the hotel business is suffering, suffering big time. A lot of the hotels are losing money, and I'm saying that through experience. So I'm just wondering, why isn't it that the chief and council not ensuring that that the Acres trustees follow the trust agreement? It's being brought up even in auditors' management letters whereby the trustees were in a conflict situation. Nothing was done. I even exposed this conflict of interest at the talks that they had at the mismanagement of assets at the multi-purpose building. The lawyer, Joanne Crook, agreed with me that they were in a conflict of interest situation. But they still haven't done a thing about it. Instead, they develop other numbered companies that will say, no, the numbered company is going to do it, but they're still the same people. They even created a company that's making money off of all this other type of research in our traditional territory, in our grounds. This is, I think we need to have our leaders wake up and do something, because we're not, our members of the blood tribe are not just, no longer can look at the other way. Because these settlement agreements are one-shot deal. Once we settle, that's it. And if the money's not managed properly, well, we'll have a future, very grim future for our children and grandchildren.
I'd like to mention one thing on that hotel too, is that it's raising a lot of concerns because the land is not converted to reserve land. And you're not supposed to spend Indian monies off reserve. However, maybe it was planned for it not to be converted to reserve land, because if you're building a $22 million hotel and convention center, then it has value to it. If it's converted to the blood reserve and you build a $22 million project on there, it's worth nothing. Now, my concern is these trustees, they're very quiet. They don't tell you who they are, like they get numbered companies and they switch them around. They go from BC back to Alberta. Raises suspicion that maybe when they do build this $22 million convention center, these trustees will be able to sell it for maybe $18 million. Take a loss, pocket the money, and no concern about the loss because it wasn't your money to begin with. And this is what a lot of people are saying. Why is it not reserve land, and why are they using our money to build off reserve? Thank you.
Asokani ja miksi uhkin etsä kenä kauan koki maukaki situksou siitä piikuoni. Anniksi kokin siskaki ani ja akso akkiika kemusaksa piskatuusi ja piskatuusi kipäitä pisin. Ako komanistua kuusi nissokaksi. Mutta koks sammaks puu käytsäki. Hänet maanastua siukaki. Oka komanista sitä piikkoa niin se voi siitä se kiivi poistu joka niin päätöpisissä soksikaki. Oka komanista ei käännoa sitä piikkoa niin. Ok muukis käytsäki ja kenäätsäki. Vitsiki istiika ja ikaki matu. Siivoko kakanakaa sitä piokaki. Etsini kuukua istuu siitä piikkoa niin paktomanista ei niin päätöpisissä. Och miksi asukani ja miksi kinätsäki ja nissokaksi maani. Sitä pannissani kaikki aikani jopakin viimeisessä samsaskriima kohpiakin. Ainakin on koko sen noinsa jästovaasissa. Och aikani jopakin manissa me johonkin manissa matsakin joku iispohki. Hän johonkin kiiwa eikä mutas maapuukau. Hän johonkin steiput niin päätäpits. Niin taps kun tappi joka koki päätäpits noin kaikki. Och jag säger sku motsvar. Och jag koke akukki mokis niin näetsäkäki. Och jag koks nimia muhtuuhtei kuispina naam. Maatseksista piuatsa mokis anstui anstui päätäpits. Och jag kasakoksi kaikki matua käännoa kaikki. Och jag kan jokin sitä päihiksi matsen puolella itseni kohpinna nohku kuita. Och jag taakapinna kuika ja pääkisi kummiuppaa kaikki akukatsiksu kappi. Hanne.